All right, today I'm here with Jeff Gothelf, and I love Jeff's LinkedIn, LinkedIn line because that defines him. Your purpose is to teach executives to simplify prioritization and decision making by putting the customers first. First, I've been following Jeff over the years. Read Sense and Respond and Lean UX when they came out. You were, at one point you were even the co-founder of a publishing company for short,
True.
actionable business books for executives. And now you're the co-author of the new book on OKRs. What, who does what by what, how much? Awesome, you have it over there.
Always at the ready.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for joining me today. And I'm just really curious about your experiences in launching your new book and your experience as an author over the years. And yeah, I prepared a bunch of questions, and just very appreciative that you were willing to share your time with us.
My pleasure. Look, I think it's really, it's great that you're doing this. And I think it's super valuable to hear from a variety of folks who have written and published books and see what their experiences were and learn from that and then choose your own adventure from
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, cool. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Why did you start writing and eventually even publishing?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I had no intentions of ever writing any books. It always sounded like this massive obstacle that I would never overcome. Like
Hmm.
writing 1,000 words sounded like, an impossible thing to do. But when I was the director of user experience at the Ladders in New York City between the years of 2008 and 2012, we were dealing with a situation that many software design and development teams were having, which is how do you do design and development successfully in an agile software development space?
Hmm.
And we had to deal with the same question, and nobody had a good answer. A couple of decent answers, but nobody had like a compelling, this is how to do it. And so we set out to learn from the folks who tried and didn't succeed and those who had some decent answers. And I came, and I came back to my organization. I said, look, run some experiments. And so we did, and we tried things for a while. And as we were trying to figure things out, I started to blog about them just to share them back out with the community. And and over time, those conversations became more popular. And when we got to a point where we figured out something that worked for us, which we ended up calling Lean UX at the time, I started giving a couple of talks here and there about the topic because I knew people wanted to know. And, we had found an answer to this particular problem.
Hmm.
It turns out that book publishers go to, technical book publishers especially, go to technical conferences and look for the next not thought leaders, but the next, speakers on new ideas,
Hmm.
basically. And sure enough, O'Reilly had gone to a couple of conferences where I was speaking on Lean UX, and they said, "Oh, this is interesting. Do you want to write a book about Lean UX?" And I was like, uh, "Sure,
Yeah.
why not?" To be fair, actually Wiley and O'Reilly both pitched for the book at the same time.
Oh,
It was really interesting. All of a sudden, I'd gone from not wanting to write a book to having basically two competing offers on the table and the offers were basically identical, right? There was
ah,
no, and from my perspective, Wiley, I have some Wiley books on my bookshelf. I have some O'Reilly books on my
yeah.
bookshelf. Like it was all the same to me.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the reason why I chose in the end to go with O'Reilly at the time was this is 2012, was
Hmm.
because lean startup had become a thing
Yeah.
right then, like a year earlier. And Eric Ries had contracted with O'Reilly to put out a lean series of books.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, Eric Ries is a rising star. We can kind of hang on his coattails as he's going up and to the right and be a part of this lean series. That made sense. So I turned down the Wiley offer, went with the O'Reilly offer. And again, the offers were identical. First time
Right.
technical author, there was no particularly clear benefit to either one.
Hmm.
But the Eric Ries side of the O'Reilly conversation was a bit more compelling. And that was that. And so and that's when I started writing Lean UX, and it
Hmm.
took a couple of years, but I got it done with the help of Josh Seiden eventually.
Nice. Yeah, and then your second book, I have it here as well, got through Harvard Business Review Press,
Yeah,
which is a whole different ball game, I assume. How did
it
you end up there?
is. So that's really interesting. I'm really, really proud of that book. I'm proud of
Hmm.
that book for a variety of reasons. I'm proud of it because, we wanted to write a business book, Josh and
Hmm.
I, by trade, and if certainly at the time, this was 10 years ago, um, we're designers. We saw ourselves as designers. We pitched ourselves as designers, and the idea that two designers could write a business book and get it published on a business label was an ambitious goal that we felt was an ambitious
Hmm.
goal for us. We ended up with that book because Lean UX was a really solid success. Continues to be, actually, all these
Hmm.
years later. Um, and the feedback from folks who read it, they said, "Look, we'd love to work in this new way that you guys have written about, but my boss won't let me work this way."
Right.
So we responded to that feedback by writing a book for the bosses,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that was our pitch. Now, the interesting thing about Harvard is that it's a business book publishing label. So if they don't solicit you, you can't directly solicit them.
Right. Right.
Right? You
Yeah.
can't send them a pitch and you'd be like, "Hey, would you like to write my book?" You have to go through an agent.
Right.
And so we started to look for agents, and the agents were like, "Well, do you have a book proposal?" Never had to do a book proposal. I mean, O'Reilly did ask for a book proposal, to be fair,
Uh-huh.
but it was all based on stuff I was already talking about.
Right. Right.
That was kind of like filling in the blanks. Like,
Hmm.
you have a proposal, and we're like, no. And so there was proposal templates all around, and it was like they wanted 50 pages of content, and now it's like, and I was
Nice.
like, so you want me to write the book before I pitch it,
Yeah.
basically? And so what we ended up doing was we ended up hiring a ghostwriter to
Hmm.
write the book proposal.
Right.
That was it, right? And it was at the time it was a fair. I think he charged us $5,000,
Uh-huh.
and he was a pro. This
Yeah.
was he was a business book ghostwriter, and I think he gave us a deal on this because he was hoping that we would give him the ghostwriting gig for the whole book.
Right.
And so he not only helped us write the proposal, but he's a veteran of the industry, and he introduced us to some agents.
Yeah.
And one agent took us on and pitched the book to a variety of different business book labels, and Harvard
Hmm.
liked it,
Hmm.
and we went with them because to us this was victory, like
Yeah.
proof of our hypothesis, right?
Got
We
it.
could we could get published. But actually, you've published with publishers as well. Um, just because you got a book deal doesn't mean that the book gets published, by the
No.
way. The publisher has the right to refuse to publish your manuscript,
Right. Yeah.
right? So just because you wrote it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're getting published, which was always, and I didn't really realize that until we started working with Harvard, because after we submitted the manuscript and made some edits or whatever, they're like, "Okay, we've decided to publish your book." I remember that conversation.
Nice.
It's like, what do you mean you've
Didn't
decided?
you just decide
Yeah. Like,
when
when we
we got the
signed this
deal?
deal a year and a half ago and started writing, didn't you agree then to publish the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you actually read the contract? No, they don't, right?
Right.
And so yeah, so then
Nice.
that book came out, and again, I'm super proud of that book for all of those reasons, and the fact that we had to went out and did a whole bunch of primary research and secondary research, and to really bolster the points in the book. Whereas with Lean UX, we were writing from experience. This is
Right.
how we were working. So it was like,
Yeah.
but this was like more of a theoretical book, and so we wanted the proof for it. So
Yeah. And then and then now your newest book is completely self-published. And in the middle you had your own publishing company. Like how did you go from basically winning the deal with one of the most prestigious and difficult to get in publishers to starting your own publisher? And then now, I don't think you have the publishing house anymore, do you?
it doesn't publish books anymore. The
Right.
company
Okay.
exists,
Yeah.
but it doesn't publish books anymore,
Uh-huh.
with the exception of this,
Of
of
your
who
own
does
book.
what
Yeah.
by how
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically it's under the Sense and Respond Press
Hmm. Hmm.
imprint. Um, we, after publishing with Harvard, and yes, it was cool, and yes, they did some interesting stuff for us that O'Reilly didn't do or couldn't do. There still wasn't like an overwhelming sense of, my gosh, we could never have been this successful
Hmm.
without these folks.
Hmm.
There's still so much left to the author to do, even with a business book
Hmm.
publisher. And so we're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. We're not getting paid a whole lot on each of these books. The publisher takes the bulk of it.
Right. Yeah.
They're not really doing that much. why we now have the credibility, right? So we have the credibility of being published authors on two different publishing labels.
Hmm.
Why do we need these folks anymore? That was the question.
Right.
And I coincidentally ended up at a conference in Lausanne, Switzerland with Christina Whitkey, who had started self-publishing around that time. And we went to dinner and I was like, tell me everything, right? Tell me how you do it. And she explained to me like how self-publishing works.
Hmm.
And she even introduced me to the team that she uses to create the book.
Yeah.
And so Josh and I decided, I said, look, let's do an experiment. That's what we do. That's what we write about. That's what we talk about. Um, let's do one tiny little self-published book
Hmm.
and see what happens. And we did. I wrote Lean versus Agile versus Design Thinking,
Mm.
6,000 words.
I have it in my bookshelf somewhere. I remember that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
literally
Uh-huh.
6,000 words.
Nice.
And if there's two versions of that book, there's the original version, and then there's the Sense and Respond Press version of that book. They
Hmm.
just look different. It's the same content. Um, but it was a test. It was an experiment to learn how to self-publish,
Hmm.
to understand what that process took, what it cost, how long it took, and then what kind of results we could see from publishing a relatively small book. And it was successful.
Right.
You know, it was interesting. I walked into the offices of potential readers of that book, and I said, and I kind of, as I approached them with the book in hand, so many times I got the response was like, "Oh, I could read that book." It's like when someone hands me a business book, even this one's like it's 250 pages.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll take it. I'll just put
Uh-huh.
it on the nightstand. I'll get to it or whatever." But you hand somebody a book that's 40, 50, 60, 70 pages long, they're like, okay, I can read that on a train ride or a
Hmm.
flight or
Hmm.
something along those lines. And so that really gave us some good feedback. And so we decided to see what it was like to be on the other side of the publishing business. And we built this press, the Sense and Respond Press, published two of our books. So republished Lean versus Agile and
Hmm.
Josh's Outcomes Over Outputs book, and then 18 other titles over the course of four
Wow.
years. So we published
Yeah.
20 books total.
Awesome. Yeah. And then, so that's a really good segue into what I'd really love to talk to you about, which is about all about book launch and book marketing, because it sounds like you have a lot of experience with that, and have even probably advised other authors on how to do it. And when I saw your activities for this book launch, I also found your post with the objectives and key results for this launch.
Yeah,
And that was interesting because let me just read them out here.
sure.
Your objective is make it that simple for any team in any organization to get started with implementing and scaling OKRs in the next 2 years. And as key results, you had first, readers purchased the book at least 5,000 times in the first month. 50% of readers who purchased the book in the first month leave a positive review on Amazon. And HR learning partners and team leaders reach out at least 10 times in the first month, inquiring about a bulk book purchase.
Yeah.
So I really wonder, like, why did you pick these OKRs? What are some of the principles or philosophies underneath
Yeah.
these, other than
I,
just sell a ton of books? Which is
Well, so it's
obviously,
interesting, right? So I caught some crap for those OKRs. Like I definitely got some
hmm,
criticism.
really? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
why?
Like the objective was okay, right? No one
Mm-hmm.
really complained, but the key results were like, oh, you're so commercial. You're too
Right.
commercial. And look, I appreciate that. However, in order to have an impact with a book, you
Right.
have to sell the book.
Yeah, people have to read it first.
Have to read the book. I guess I didn't have to sell the book. People have to read the book. You're right.
Right.
That's a better, right? People actually have to read it. Um, in order to do that, if you're trying to kind of recoup at the very least the expenses that you put into creating the book, you have to charge money for the book, which means you
Yeah.
have to sell the book. So
Right.
my initial key results were about getting people excited enough to buy the book.
Mm-hmm.
And of those people who bought the book, I wanted at least half of them to like it enough to leave a positive review.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately, if we're going to start to have an impact on organizations, it's these HR learning partners really that start to really bring different ideas at scale into
Mm-hmm.
companies.
Mm-hmm.
And if our ideas are good and the book is succeeding, then this is getting out to these folks who are then reaching out to us to talk about bulk purchases, and then ultimately, hopefully, some training and speaking and all
Hmm.
the other stuff that we
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the rationale behind those key results.
Yeah. And I've read your book, and like the next stage after objectives and key results is initiatives and things you actually deploy. But to understand what to deploy, what have you learned about people's main drivers for buying a book like this one? Like how do you influence people's behavior to actually achieve those results?
It's a great question. And I don't have it figured out 100%.
Hmm.
Um, Look, what did we do? So awareness is key,
Hmm.
right? Creating awareness that this book is coming, creating awareness about the fact that you're writing it, when it's coming, what it's about, what it's hoping to solve for, um, getting people excited about this thing, this
Hmm.
book that's coming, making sure that as many people as possible are aware of it, um, getting folks to join communities about the book or email lists or
Hmm.
early reader lists, anything like that that starts to give you a signal that there is actually a significant market for this, and to build that momentum and that excitement to get folks to come along with you on the journey, right? So as we were writing the book, we would release excerpts to our early readers community to
Hmm.
get their
Hmm.
feedback, to see what they thought. We tested book covers with them,
Hmm.
anything that we could do to keep them engaged in the idea that this was happening
Right.
and to make them feel like they're a part of this process that's coming.
Hmm.
But
Your
the
seed readers, basically. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
the goal again is just awareness, awareness, awareness. Look, one of the benefits of lean UX, of writing lean UX, was that I was terrible at writing. And
Okay.
so it took me 2 years from book deal, so 2011, book deal to publishing. Like
Right.
2 years. I wrote that manuscript 4 times, the last time with Josh.
Yeah.
Um, but I had 2 years to talk about the fact that this book was coming.
Right. Right.
Right. I was on stages and I was in meetups and I was writing blog posts and whatever. And so I was, I got to talk about it for 2 years. And so when it came out, not only was the timing right, the topic was right, but there was a lot of excitement that I had been sort of building up for a couple of years.
Hmm.
But I think that's absolutely critical to get that pop out of the gate and to get as many of those folks to buy the book as soon as possible
Hmm.
after it launches is absolutely critical. But look, I mean, there's so much noise these
Yeah.
days. And there's a lot of folks writing books,
Yeah.
you know? And so creating that awareness and that excitement is really difficult, and maintaining it is difficult.
Hmm. Hmm. So yeah. So like, what have you tried? What has worked so far? And what has failed?
Yeah, so honestly, if you look at my metrics today, everything has failed.
Okay. Yeah.
Compared to my key results. Nothing has worked as expected. And
Well,
it's
it
funny
depends on
because
the. I
this
don't know
is
what the time horizon was on your key results. Well, first month is literally what it
it
says, right?
said
Okay.
first month, yeah,
Right.
but
Right.
I mean, I can even say by the end of the year, and I'm not sure I'd hit those numbers.
Uh-huh.
But look, the reality is, this is my fifth book.
Hmm.
I self-published Lean versus Agile, and I self-published a book called Forever Employable before this one.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
remember that.
I really feel like I know how to launch a book.
Hmm.
Um, I strongly believe in the quality of who does what by how much.
Right.
And I believe I have a huge assumption that the timing for this book is perfect.
Hmm.
Companies all over the world are implementing OKRs.
Yeah.
Everyone is complaining about it, that it sucks and it's difficult and it's hard.
Hmm.
This is planning season now.
Yeah.
And the demand for this is well beyond product and tech. This is a kind of a company-wide system.
Yeah.
And so all of those factors at play, I really, really thought we were going to knock it out of the park coming out of the gate.
Hmm.
And we haven't. That's the truth,
Hmm.
right? The numbers aren't there yet. Like, we're selling books and there's reviews, but they're not
Yeah.
not nearly at the levels that those key results were set at. And in my opinion, we've done a lot of things right. We had a pre-reader community for a year.
Uh-huh.
We built an email list of early readers and people like, let me know when the book, let me know stuff about the book
Yeah.
whenever you're ready. I think we had 1,700 people
Right.
on that list. We had a LinkedIn group that was relatively quiet, but nevertheless, a kind of a dedicated channel for all things related to this book of probably 800 people. So 2,500 people, probably not unique. There was probably some overlap between those two communities,
Uh-huh.
right? So, let's just say 2,000, right? Just
Yeah.
from there's a 2,000 people who had expressed interest in learning about the book right off the bat. We drip them content. We let them weigh in on cover designs.
Mm-hmm.
We took their feedback on certain ideas. We held regularly scheduled monthly office hours.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, these were Ask Me Anything sessions with Josh and myself,
Yeah.
where anybody from that community, that's one of the perks of being in the community, right?
Yeah.
Could spend an hour with us asking anything they wanted to about OKRs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which for us was extremely valuable because it helped us understand whether or not we're actually answering the right questions in the
Right.
book, or
Yeah.
we're forgetting anything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we did that. And, attendance at that ranged from 7 people to 17 people
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
average, roughly. Anywhere in that range on a monthly basis. And I think people really appreciated those.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that. And we would take that content and those clips and videos from that and put that into the early reader community and be like, hey, this is what we talked about last week. What do you guys think? That type of thing. And then there was and then there was a significant amount of email-based marketing and communication with these folks to say, okay, the book's coming, the book's coming, the book's coming,
Uh-huh.
um,
And now it's here. Yeah.
and be ready to buy, etc. And so uh, all of those things we did all of that ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
We began to solicit podcasts
Mm-hmm.
in advance and sending sort of early copies of the manuscript to podcast hosts as well. And then we emailed everybody. Yes, I've got a mailing list of about 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Hit that mailing list a bunch to encourage people to buy. I blogged about it. Josh blogged about it. He's got a smaller mailing list. We hit up the LinkedIn book community, the LinkedIn feeds, the LinkedIn newsletter, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
We uh, we told everybody about the book. And then in addition to that, we did a thing that I learned by reading an article from Michael Bungay Stanier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he did a thing called what he called cousin reviews, which I really
Okay.
liked the idea. The idea was look for books that are similar to your books,
Uh-huh.
right? So in this related, similar field, similar topic, that type of thing. And then find people who reviewed those books on YouTube, on Amazon, but give them proper reviews, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On their blog, on LinkedIn, on Medium, whatever, right? And then reach out to them and say, hey, I saw that you reviewed Christina Whitkey's Radical Focus. I have
Mm-hmm.
also written a book on OKRs. Can I send you a copy? Will you review it? That type of thing. And we did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we hit up and continue to hit up a bunch of podcasts to
Right.
create
Yeah.
all that awareness.
So,
The
I
last,
mean, I mean, to
go
me,
ahead.
it sounds like you've done everything that you
Yes.
could, and like it's a lot more than I see a lot of other authors do. So that in itself is insightful. And obviously, you didn't hit those numbers, but does that say something about being unrealistic when you set those numbers? I mean, are you still learning what things are? Did you discover some things that what is your assumptions about these hypotheses now, having
I
going
don't, I
through all
don't
this?
know. And I'm a little, I'll be honest, I'm frustrated by it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
again, my initial hypothesis was we're writing a high quality book
Yeah.
on a meaningful topic that meaningful to a large audience, well
Mm-hmm.
beyond our traditional audience. And we're timing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's now, right? And it's like when all these organizations are struggling with it, um, built upon our credibility. Josh and I have some level of credibility in the product tech, hopefully business world zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't like, here's the thing, like people are buying the book and
Yeah.
people are reading the book. And the reviews that we're hearing are positive. You read
Hmm.
the reviews on Amazon, they're overwhelmingly positive. I get
Yeah.
people, I'm reading it, love it, super interesting. Thank you. This is the book I've been looking for.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, the only negative review we've gotten was private. And it was
Right.
from a thought leader that we reached out to because we wanted him to endorse the book.
Yeah.
And he didn't read it. He read maybe like a few pages. And the feedback that he gave us was, you're taking a very customer-centric view rather than sort of a holistic customer and business-centric view.
Hmm.
And that's naive and dangerous. And so I'm not going to endorse the book. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. But like that feedback was given to us privately in email,
Yeah. Yeah.
not publicly.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why. Like I don't I don't feel like my key results were unrealistic. I mean, 5,000 books in the first month felt realistic to me,
Hmm.
given what I thought the
Yeah.
demand was for the market, and the size of our audience, et cetera. But I don't like it's weird, right? Like I can talk to people who have read the book, and I can talk to people who have read the book and given feedback about the
Yeah.
book. But I've not found anybody yet to say, yeah, this book isn't working for me, and here's
Right.
why.
Right.
Or I don't know what the book is about, or I don't understand it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I've been part of so I read Rob Fitzpatrick's book. Rob interviewed you a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and his book is titled Right Use for Books. And part of the things he says is launch is a year, not a day. And to him, at least in his philosophy, it's all about creating a recommendation loop, right? So if the book works for readers, you just have to give it time. So then the snowball starts rolling, and eventually you'll hit your numbers.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe something like that is happening too. And I also noticed you launched in August, right? Is that correct? Is that the when did you launch?
It was late July.
Right,
Yes.
right, right. So it's middle of holiday season, at least in Europe here.
Yeah,
So I don't
exactly.
know. Like those are some things I would have in mind when I hear you speak. It's like, don't beat yourself up for it. It's like maybe it just needs more time. And if the book is good, it eventually will hit the back catalog and will continue to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I appreciate that. And that's where I am right now. Like I'm still pushing the book. I'm still
Yeah.
on podcasts. We're doing a little PR as well. We're spending a little money on PR.
Uh huh.
I'm experimenting with paid book advertisements here and there.
Uh huh.
But generally speaking, right, like if you read my blog, if you read my LinkedIn feed, et cetera, right, it's about OKRs all the
Yeah.
time, and it's
Yeah.
about the book. And so I agree with you. I expect that kind of virtuous cycle of recommendations, like, oh, this is the book, this is the will help drive that. And you're right, it has been holiday season, it's been summer. So we'll see. Let's talk again in January. I'll
Yeah.
let you know where we stand.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're doing PR as well for more.
PR.
So what is that? What do you hope to get out of that? Because it's one of like if you're launching a book, just from my perspective, you have like 1,000 options. My financial resources are limited. I can
Sure.
spend on anything, but like, how do I invest my money to market my book? And PR is one of the options. A
Yeah.
PR agent, or yeah.
Um, so we hired PR to try to get on, honestly, to try to break out of the product and tech world
Right. Right.
and to get into the conversation via publications or podcasts or traditional media,
Hmm.
traditional business media, about goal setting, objectives and key results, customer centricity, that type of thing. That was the goal.
Hmm.
Um, It's the second time we've done PR. We did a bit of PR with Sense and Respond. It was a real disaster with Sense and Respond. Like really, almost nothing good came
Hmm.
out of that. This time around, we've spent a little bit less money, which is good. Initially, the targeting was a bit off, but they've seen in the last, we've been doing it for 3 months now. They've seen the PR agency seems to have now kind of honed in on better and better podcasts and that type of thing.
Hmm.
Nothing huge as of yet, but it's getting better. And again, it's all about awareness and exposure, right? Like I don't
Hmm.
I don't expect this to uh, I expect it ultimately to drive sales, but realistically, it's to get key people to read this book who can then say, "Oh, okay, we need a copy of this book for everybody in the
Right.
organization."
Yeah, you only need one leader to get those 5,000 books of a
Exactly.
huge organization, which is difficult to get to. But yeah, so using the PR to get on the right podcasts is one of the objectives there.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. And I also like your other key result is about getting people to leave reviews. Obviously, Amazon reviews help, but I also saw a bunch of people post LinkedIn photos of your book, like, "Hey, I read this book; it's awesome,"
Yeah.
blah blah, which is great, of course, which is good for the ego. But I also wonder, did you incentivize people to do that somehow? I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but like,
Sure.
you can always ask people to do that. But
You can pay people to do
right.
anything.
No, I
There's
think I
no
think the you can't do it to get people to do it on Amazon. I think that's against the rules. But like, obviously, if people
correct.
get a book and like, I miss, what's in it for them other than you know, getting your
What?
like.
Yeah. So great question. So those posts sell books. That's been my experience. When somebody like Rich Mironov, who is a product management thought leader, right, and practitioner, is like, "Hey, I just got Jeff and Josh's book. It looks great." That sells books. Not a
Right.
ton, but it sells books, right? When Dory Clark, who's got a massive following, holds it up and says, "Hey, this is it," right? And so the way that we did that is we asked people to do that.
Yeah.
Like there's
Okay.
there's no secret sauce here, right? To get reviews and to get those photos, it's all about asking people to do that.
Yeah.
Specifically, people I'm in a couple of Slack communities of authors and practitioners and coaches and that type of thing, and it's reciprocal, right? So when their books come out, I will do the same thing,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a bit of that. There's like a kind of
Right.
like, hey, I'll hold your book up in a photo if you'll hold my book up in a photo. And it's
Yeah.
not disingenuous, right? Like I
Okay. Yeah.
genuinely want to support other authors, and I hope that they would genuinely want to support me.
Right.
Um, and so that goes a long way. But any kind of reviews, anything like that, I ask people all the time. The other day I was in a WhatsApp chat with somebody, and he said something nice about the book.
Uh-huh.
Hey, do you mind just copying this and pasting it into an Amazon review?
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, no problem. And he
Yeah.
did that. Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uh, quid pro quo
Right.
with
Yeah.
other authors as well. So I've had a couple of authors recently send me a copy of their book to review. I've had a couple of folks want me to read their manuscript. I was like, cool, no problem. Here's mine, and please say something nice about it,
Cool.
right? And
Yeah.
again, like to me, that's like to your point. It starts that virtuous cycles of social proof.
Yeah.
Okay, people like this. Okay, people are doing this, are reading this book, and so I'll do it as well.
Right. Right. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. It's about, I think to me, it's about reaching others people's audience, right? Because everybody who is
Yes.
following you already knows about the book, or has been getting sick about hearing it 15 times. At least my following is like, yeah, I know you have a new book. Like, stop talking about it now.
But listen,
Um,
look, I'll tell you a story really quick, okay?
yeah,
Um,
please.
I used to be in bands. I used to play in bands all the time, and particularly, and in college and university, you'd be like, "Hey," I mean, everybody knew we were in a band, but it's like, "We have a gig Friday night." Okay,
Hmm.
tell them that a week earlier. You tell them that on Sunday, on Monday, "Hey, I've got a gig. I got a gig. We have a gig, right?" And then Friday night comes along, and no one comes to the gig,
Okay.
and you're like, "Where the hell were you
Hmm.
guys? I told you for like the last 2 weeks that we have a gig Friday night."
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, I forgot. You know,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
like it's like that, but that's exactly what it's like. Like with book marketing, like that kind of like one-to-one telling everybody, um, it's so important to you
Yeah.
that there's no way you could forget about it,
No.
right? But just because you've told somebody 10 times about your book, it's not the most important thing in their life
Right,
at the
right.
moment. And so the takeaway there is never shut up about your book.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
just keep talking about it, right? There's a saying, a quote that I learned from Christina Whitke that she heard from the former CEO of LinkedIn, Jeff Weiner was his name. I can't remember.
Okay.
Anyway,
It's
one of
not
the
Reid
former CEOs.
Hoffman. No,
I
I
don't
don't
I don't
know.
remember his last name.
Okay. Yeah.
But he was the former CEO of LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
he had this saying that says, he goes, about the time that you're getting sick of saying it, they're starting to hear it. Right. And that's 100% true of book
Yeah.
marketing. Right.
Yeah.
About the time that you're like, did you know I have a book? Did you know it's called Who Does What by How Much?
Uh,
Right. About that time, you're like, oh, I think Jeff has a new book coming out.
right. Right.
Like literally. And it's not a joke,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not the most important thing in their life. It's not the 50th most important thing in their life.
No.
Right.
No.
And
Yeah.
so you just got to keep beating people over the head with it.
Yeah. And like that beating looks like LinkedIn posts, being visible in all the places that you can, being on podcasts, anything else that you're like, well, I'm really going to double down on that, or like anything that you're like, I want to increase my investment there, or any
Look,
advice for others that are like considering
value.
options.
To me, here's the thing, right? So look, my goal is to help. I want to sell books. I want to get speaking gigs. I want to get, training gigs, etc. But ultimately, I want to help,
Yeah.
right? And I want people to recognize me as someone who can help them, even if they don't pay me money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so everything that I put out into the world has to have value,
Yeah.
right? Uh, I mean, maybe there have been two or three emails, maybe in this book marketing campaign that have been purely advertisements,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just been part of the launch. But otherwise, every single thing that I put out into the world, content wise,
Mm-hmm.
has to have value,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want you to be able to say, oh, Jeff published a new blog post. I know there's something of valuable in there.
Right. Right.
At the end, I might say, buy my book, blah, 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 or whatever. But there's
It's still
something about
useful.
you.
Yeah.
You hear me on a podcast, there's something useful, something you
Right.
can do, something you can take away. Every single blog post, right,
Yeah.
is about that. And to me, that's what gets people to come back. Like, for example, right? It just creates kind of this positive halo around you and your personal brand.
Right.
And so when folks go out into the market and they're like, damn, OKRs are hard. Whose book should I buy? Well, there's this one and there's this one by Jeff. Oh, I keep reading Jeff's stuff and he's super generous. You know what? I'm going to get Jeff's book.
Right.
That
Right.
type of thing, right? Hopefully that's what it turns out. But even if it doesn't, I just want to be helpful. And I think that ultimately comes back to you
Yeah.
in a million different ways.
So that's why you're also not afraid to share a lot from what is in your book by just
Correct.
putting it out there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
absolutely.
So we're getting close to the end. I do have two more questions, and also open up the chat here if somebody others wanna ask. But the one question I really have is, did you put together any packages, or like if you buy this book now, you also get, I don't know, a signed copy or a
Yes.
free team session, or any what kind of things are you offering as well?
Yes. So the
All
short
of
answer
it,
is yes. So there's a workbook. Like we designed a workbook that
right?
comes with certain bulk purchases. There's a bulk purchase uh, discount schedule. We call it discount schedule, right? So if you buy,
Yeah,
25 books, you get X% off. If you get 50 books, it's X% off, right?
yeah,
Um, if you buy, I think we said if you buy 100 books, we'll do an hour uh, phone call with your company.
yeah,
Um, we have done all kinds of giveaways on LinkedIn where it's like, retweet or not retweet, but repost or mention somebody, say something nice about the book, leave a review, whatever it is, and be
yeah.
entered in a drawing. We've done it all. We've done all that stuff. I'll be honest with you, not terribly successful, those
Uh-huh.
campaigns. Not that
Yeah.
not that they weren't valuable per se, and again, in creating awareness, but generally speaking, not terribly successful
Hmm.
in driving engagement. And then yeah, or any like maybe the bundles weren't attractive enough. I remember, back when Lean Startup came out, Eric Ries had these amazing bundles, right? Where he got a whole bunch of other service providers to jump in on the bundle. So it was like buy 100 copies and you get an hour with me, and you get a free 1 month subscription to X, and you get like
Hmm.
a trial of this, and that
Yeah,
type of thing. And that was really really brilliant.
yeah,
We,
yeah.
we didn't do that.
No, no, it's a lot of work as well. Like
It's a
it
ton
has
of
to fit.
work.
Yeah. And how do you prevent the logistical nightmare of shipping individual books or boxes of books everywhere versus just getting people to buy it on Amazon for the fixed price? Like, how do you How do you deal with that?
So there's no, particularly with self-publishing, and particularly with self-publishing on KDP, Amazon service, there is no easy solution here,
Yeah.
right? Especially with distributed teams these days, right? So the
Yeah.
nice thing about pre-COVID days is if a client bought 100 books, you send 100 books to their
There's a
office,
box. Yeah.
right? Now you either make it their problem, which is part an option,
Uh-huh.
or you say, look, just give me the addresses and I'll do it, but you charge them more for it. But there's no way around it. It's a human process. We end up buying author copies,
Yeah.
KDP, and
Yeah.
then shipping them out
Yeah. Yeah.
individually. The other option that we've tried in the past was to send a bunch here and then individually package them and send them out. We've done that both, on sort of both in Europe and in the United States.
Yeah.
Again, it's manual labor, and it's
Yeah.
it's unless you're trying to actually include either a signed book or some kind of a book insert or along,
Yeah.
um, there's no real reason to do that. Amazon's got fantastic shipping.
Yeah.
It's just need someone to get in there and type in the names and the addresses.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's a pain. Like there's like I also looked at Lulu Direct, which allows you to upload multiple addresses and just press a button, but still, yeah, it's a lot of labor.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. And look, that's an easy thing to outsource,
Yeah.
to a relative, to sort of like an hourly person.
Yeah.
There's like
Yeah.
there's no, it's like here's a list of names and addresses.
Yeah.
Here's a credit card.
Yeah.
Go to this site, right? And then buy, like, here's how to buy an author copy with my login or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then buy an author copy and send it to each of these people.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you send the invoice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, it's relatively easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, Frank, if you have any question, this is the great moment to chime in as well. And if not, I'll just ask my another question, which is like anything else, Jeff? What would you do differently next time, or any pivots that you're planning to make? Where are you at leaving this
That's a
call?
great question because I really thought I got it right this
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah, you tried everything, so
Fifth time's a charm.
yeah.
I think for me, I would figure out how to involve the early reader uh, community
Mhm.
more actively.
Yeah.
We got some traction, but really I really want them sort of engaged much more, reacting, offering advice, discussing with each other. So how to really drive that community, because we had a decent sized community,
Yeah.
right? So how to drive that a bit more, I think would be an interesting challenge.
Mhm.
I really like, to me, there are some key publications, podcasts, shows, etc., that I still would like to get on that I really think could shift books. So who are the biggest players in your space for us, in product management?
Mhm.
It's Lenny's podcast and Lenny's
Yeah.
newsletter, right? Still
Yeah.
trying to get on there.
Yeah.
That shifts units, but like with an audience of 800,000 people, right? That's gonna move things forward.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I don't know what else to do next time, but um, I'm not ready to talk about next time
No,
yet.
no, of course. No. I mean, yeah, we'll walk around. So Frank asked a question here in the chat. So I don't know if are you familiar with Rob Fitzpatrick's helpthisbook.com beta reading software?
No.
Okay. Right. Well, there's your answer, Frank. But it's the platform that Frank and I and others use to solicit. It's like Google Docs, but then much better for
Huh.
involving a community to leave comments and to track the reader experience, to where people can say like, "Well, I was confused about this bit," or "I don't understand this bit," or etc. So it's a way to open up your manuscript.
I like that. I like that. I'm not familiar with it, but it sounds terrifying at the same
Oh
time.
yeah, it is. It definitely is. But yeah, like to your point, what you said about involving your community, it was my way to share early copies, early drafts, and at one point in time, one reader's piece of feedback I completely got struck by that and had to completely pivot my book because it was so on point.
Yeah.
But it required like over 100 people reviewed my book, and just this one comment was like, "Oh my god, I really have to redo it because people are so polite,
Yeah.
people don't want to say that they don't get it or it's
Sure.
like you're on the wrong track. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I did remember one thing that we didn't do this time, and I don't think was necessary. We've done book
Uh-huh.
launch parties
Oh yeah.
before,
Yeah.
kind of like a physical in the real world event, and
Yeah.
they're fun, right?
Yeah.
Like you're the guest of honor. Everyone's celebrating you. There's piles of your book. You're signing autographs, right? It feels really good.
Uh-huh.
Maybe get some good photos out of that, but it doesn't it doesn't do anything. Like
Doesn't do
like
anything.
it's fun. It's fun. It's good for your ego. It's not really great for selling books. I will tell you one thing that I have done in the past, and I'm sure this is not a unique idea. I just remembered it as well. Um, One of the things that I'm going to start doing with this new book, and I've done with the past, is either trading a speaking fee for bulk purchase. So let's
Mhm.
say I'm giving a speech at a conference and the conference is going to pay me $5,000, right? Instead of paying me my $5,000, buy $5,000 worth of books and give it out to everybody,
Mhm.
right? At the conference, everybody loves free books.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. I've done that before. The other thing I've done with conferences is I've worked with them to find a sponsor to
Yeah.
do that exact thing, right? So
Yeah.
instead of me not getting paid, they find a sponsor, like whatever, right, to
Mhm.
buy 500 copies of the book at a
Mhm.
discount.
Yeah.
And then I stand at their booth and sign copies of the book
Yeah.
while we give away free books to everybody,
Right, right. Yeah.
right?
But that's you haven't done that yet, but
Not yet for this book.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. But are you like, well, that could still work in the future for this book, or it's like, meh,
No, no, 100%. I firmly
I will
believe
do
in
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, the goal is to put the book in people's hands,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's put the book in people's hands. I firmly believe in that concept. In fact, actually, I'm going to Hamburg, Germany in 3 days,
Uh-huh.
um, to a conference called Product at Heart, where I was a keynote last year. I
Uh-huh.
am not speaking there this year, but
Uh-huh.
we are doing sort of a mega book signing event at the
Okay.
end of the conference. Myself and 5 other authors, everyone's
Oh,
bringing
nice.
books and we're giving them away and signing books. And it's worth it to me because it's going to be 800 to 1,000 product managers there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of those are my people.
Awesome.
And I want to get books into people's hands and
Yeah.
be
And they
nice.
bought the books from you to do that?
No, I'm bringing
You're
my own books.
sponsoring.
I'm not giving away 800 books, to be fair. I'm giving away 50.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. All right, Jeff, this was amazing. Thanks so much for your wisdom and insights. I wish you the best of luck with your book launch, and yeah, we'll be curious to learn in January, like you said, what
yeah,
has
touch
shifted
base
for
in
you.
January. I'll let you know how we're doing on those OKRs because
Yeah.
I'm to be clear, I'm still overwhelmingly optimistic.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And
You should.
so and that drives me, that motivates me to keep pushing on this.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. Have
My
a good one.
pleasure.
Okay.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.